Hi, this is Glenda, and this is the making of two turquoise theme soaps. I have here the light water solution, which is just distilled water with sodium hydroxide, and I have here also sodium lactate. I'm going to add about 2 teaspoons of sodium lactate into the light water solution. The light water solution is at room temperature at this time, and I'm adding just a couple of teaspoons of the sodium lactate. The sodium lactate is used to help unmold the soap, and in this case I actually didn't need it, but I didn't know that yet. So here I am using it even though I'm not gonna need it, and you'll see why later. Here I have the oils, and the mica that I'm going to use is Synergy Mica from Nurture Soap. I'm using a quarter teaspoon. I'm only using a quarter teaspoon because I want just a very light teal color. Since I'm going to be using turquoise embeds, I don't want them to be the same color of the embeds because I want a little bit of a contrast in there. Initially I was just stirring it, and you see how the mica is clumping, and I'm adding it to the oils because it's just gonna be a solid color soap. There's not gonna be swirls or anything like that, because the fragrances that I will be using, they tend to accelerate and rise. At least I had used one of them before, and I knew that it caused acceleration and rising. And I'm gonna show you next what those fragrances were. One of them is Allure, and is supposed to be a type like the perfume, and it is by Bulk Apothecary, and the other one is Juicy Couture from Bulk Apothecary as well. I had used Juicy Couture before, and that's how I knew that it causes rising and acceleration. Now I'm adding the light water solution to the oils, and I forgot to film the part where I took the temperature of the oils. However, they were at about 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and the light water solution was at room temperature, which was about 80 or maybe 78 or something. So together I took the temperature of the mixture, and it was at 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 38 degrees Celsius. Initially I'm just stirring with a spatula the mix. I don't want to use the stick blender yet. I want to make sure I have a good blend here, because I only want to reach a very light emulsion once I use the blender. So I'm trying to help it by just stirring it manually. I am making these soaps as a gift for my sisters. One of them loves Juicy Couture, so I'll be using this fragrance for her. And then the other one, her favorite fragrance is Allure, which is, I believe, is a Chanel perfume. And anytime you're gonna use fragrance that is after a perfume, I don't know why, but it, at least for me, it tends to accelerate those fragrances. I don't know what it's in them. Not all of them though, but most of them, in my experience, have caused acceleration. And I try to use the blender as little as possible. I only did short bursts, and then I will stir it. And I'm actually going slower than here. This video, you know, I sped up the process, so it looks like I'm going faster than what I'm really going at. My goal is just to reach a very light emulsification so that I can add the fragrance and split this into the two soaps. So when it looked like I had reached that emulsification state, I didn't see any oils separated, then I went ahead and divided the batch, the soap batter, into two pretty much. Now nearby I only had these smaller containers close by, so I had to split it into 2 containers because I didn't want to delay the process anymore going to grab another container. What I'm trying to do is just to divide the batter equally so that each soap it's about the same size. So I calculate that I should get about 3 to 4 soap bars from each soap, And this is the mold that I'll be using. It's something that I made with Legos actually, and then I just got some plastic folder to do a liner. Now in this container and the bottle, I have about 1 ounce of Juicy Couture fragrance, and I add it, and I'm just going to stir it. I'm not gonna use the blender. And this part, I didn't speed up. It's real time. You can see that within a few seconds of just trying to distribute the fragrance evenly in the soap, it's beginning to thicken up. It's beginning to get texture. So I hurry up, and I should have hurried up even more, and I start adding it to the mold, and you can see that as I'm pouring it, it's beginning to rise. So you can tell that by the time I'm scraping whatever's left in the container into the mold, it just looks like mashed potatoes, and it moves so quickly. And I knew something like this was going to happen. However, last time I used this fragrance, I had a soap recipe that had a lot more fluid oils. If I remember correctly, it had close to 60% of olive oil alone. So it did cause rising, but it didn't cause as much acceleration as I'm seeing right now. So I'm doing my best to just get it all in one piece, to settle it and maybe remove any air pockets that may have formed with the spatula. And for a moment, I actually consider using the stick blender, maybe to bring it back to some fluid form, but I realized it was too hard already, and I didn't want to break my stick blender. So I went ahead and I just texture the top, or you just sort of like settle it down as best as I could. I wanted somewhat of a smooth surface so that I could go ahead with a design which involved putting some chopped pieces of melt and pour that had been colored with gold and white glitter, which is what I did next. But I did have a hard time getting them to stick because the soap is hardening by the second, and it's also getting hot. However, as best as I could, I did add some I sprayed some alcohol to moisten the surface and then help the embeds stick to it, and it did help a little bit. But I did have to push them in to make sure they were really embedded into the soap so that they wouldn't come out later when I cut the soap. I am trying to leave the center free because in the center is where I want to put the turquoise embeds. So I'm pushing them in, and the moistening with the alcohol did help in getting them stuck, because later I didn't have any of them fall off the soap, thank God. The one positive thing about this fragrance is that it does not cause any discoloration. So the soap stayed the same color as you see it right here. And according to my sister, it is a very close dupe of Juicy Couture. But of course, this depends because they have a lot of varieties of Juicy Coutures out there. So it depends on which one you have. But for other uses such as lotion or bath bombs, it might be okay. Except I wouldn't buy it again from this vendor because they usually don't have usage rates on their site. But I did buy it from Make Your Own, a similar perfume, Juicy Couture type. So I'll try that one next, and I'll let you know how that goes. Now for the next half of the soap is gonna be for the Allure, and it's gonna be actually the same look, just different fragrance, because this is for my other sister and this is her favorite perfume. So what I did is that I measured the fragrance in advance, and I'm going to add it straight here, and based on what I just went through, I think I'm going to move more quickly. So I've been stirring the fragrance in, and I only did it for about maybe 30 seconds, and I decided to just put it straight in the mold to avoid any issues. And as I'm finishing adding it to the mold, I noticed some setting up, It didn't rise as much as the other one, but it did set up very quickly. Like I tried to even it out, that little piece there, and you can see that it's impossible to move. And if I move it, then I can see that underneath the surface it does have that mashed potato texture, and whatever is left on the container that I'm trying to scrape off, that part has already experienced some rising. So both of these fragrances today were misbehaving fragrances for soap. Of course, for other purposes they'll probably be fine, lotions, shampoos, etc. And the one thing that I disliked the most about this fragrance was that after giving me all this trouble, I wish I could tell you, oh, but it was worth it because it smells so good and my sister loved it. But that wasn't the case. You could barely smell it. After a few days into curing, the scent had just dissipated. It was very, very faint. And when it had finished curing and I gave them to my sister for her birthday, it was mostly gone. She couldn't detect that it was there, and I couldn't either. And I was giving her other soaps, and the other soaps, very fragrant. Those were very good, but this one, not so much. And I wanted to add some gold on hers, and I had some gold mica that I tried to put on top. And I also sprinkled some silver glitter before adding the turquoise soap embeds, just for they to look a little bit different, and also to help me tell them apart when gifting them. So with the remaining 1 ounce of fragrance that I have of this, I think I'm just gonna make her a lotion. And it's a shame that it didn't survive saponification because it was a very expensive fragrance. I had bought the smallest bottle that they had, which was a 2 ounce container, and it was kind of pricey, and none of the reviews seemed to indicate this, but there were very few reviews, so that I know. You live and learn. So the next day I was able to cut them, and I do like how the color turned out to be. It was a teal, but it was lighter than the embeds, so I was happy about that. Anyway, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.